In the shadowy depths of space, they thought they had escaped the worst, until secrets darker than the void itself threatened to consume everything. Now, with their lives on the line and the truth buried beneath layers of lies, two unlikely heroes must race against time to expose a monstrous conspiracy before it's too late. But in a universe where trust is a weapon and danger lurks behind every star, can they survive long enough to reveal the truth? Or will they become just another casualty of the darkness? Stay with us, because what's coming will change everything you thought you knew about the fight for freedom. Please wait. Before we start, tap that iCard button in the top right corner and smash that subscribe button. Right now, hit the notification bell so you're first in line when new stories land. Alright, let's dive into the story. The Vic Riquette lab reeked of antiseptic and burnt flesh, a stark, clinical nightmare that betrayed its sterile facade. Bright, unforgiving lights cast harsh shadows over the dismembered bodies sprawled on cold metal tables. Corey Hayes, Unit 17A, lay motionless, his skin mottled with third-degree burns from the relentless testing. 3 fingers from his left hand were missing, his face swollen, his left eye shut tight, and blood pooling beneath him like a dark puddle of failure. Next to him, Sierra Hayes, Unit 17B, had her head shaved, neural probes embedded into her skull like birthday candles. Long, slim, and sinister. Acid burns tracked down her arms in neat, methodical lines. Her ragged breaths echoed in the silence, a haunting soundtrack to their suffering. Despite the agony etched into her features, Sierra turned her head, eyes flickering with stubborn defiance. Her cracked lips pulled into a faint, cracked smile. "How's your day going, babe?" she whispered, voice trembling but laced with dark humor. Corey coughed blood, trying to muster a grin. "Oh, just wonderful," he rasped, voice strained. "5-star accommodations, though. I'd really like to speak to the manager about the room service." A translucent scientist, its skin stretched too tight over a skeletal frame, glided into view, adjusting something on a control panel. Its long, boneless fingers moved with mechanical precision. No mouth, just those vast, empty eye sockets staring down. Then came the psionic burst, sudden, brutal, and deafening. Corey's ears bled as the alien's communication flooded his mind, a cold, clinical voice that made his blood run cold. "Your species persists despite significant tissue damage. Your attachment behavior is fascinating." The Visraki leaned over Corey, nightmare fingers probing his wounds with detached, scientific curiosity. Corey spat blood at its featureless face, voice hoarse and dripping with sarcasm. "You're supposed to buy me dinner first, you assholes," he muttered, eyes blazing with defiance. The alien's gaze remained impassive, mechanical, and unfeeling. Off to the side, Sierra's laugh turned into a wet, hacking cough. "Next time we get matching tattoos," she joked, voice cracking with pain. "Let's skip the involuntary branding." The Visraki turned its head with mechanical precision, as if unimpressed. Another scientist injected Sierra with a substance. Her body arched against the restraints, muscles tensing as if fighting invisible chains. Her pain threshold was beyond prediction. She was resilient, fierce, unbroken. The alien transmitted again, cold and clinical. Her pain tolerance exceeds expectations. Corey strained against his bonds, metal biting into his already flayed wrists. His voice was raw, desperate. "Leave her alone. Anything you learn from her, you can learn from me instead." Sierra's eyes found him through the haze, a flicker of something unspoken passing between them. 20 years of marriage, classified ops, and a secret called Lazarus. One even their handlers didn't understand. "Remember New Cairo?" Sierra slurred, her voice strained. "Pinned down, outgunned. Certain death." Corey nodded, memories flashing, the chaos, the fear, the impossible survival. But this was different. The aliens called it the final phase of extraction. All around, Monitors beeped, machines hummed, and the Visraki moved with purpose, preparing surgical tools that looked more like torture devices. The lead scientist announced, Subject 17A and 17B will now provide conclusive emotional endurance data. Corey caught Sierra's gaze again, her eyes still burning with that fierce light. He mouthed 3 words. See you soon, not I love you, but something more profound, more eternal. Sierra's lips curled into a fragile smile. The machines were activated, and pain, beyond anything they'd known, ripped through Corey's body like a storm. Every nerve ending screamed in agony, every cellular structure burning with renewed life. The world blurred, colors bleeding into black, then suddenly, nothing. Darkness. And yet, somewhere deep inside that darkness, a tremor of awakening stirred. Corey Hayes, Subject 17A, Project Lazarus, died at exactly 15:32 ship time, the moment when the life signals flatlined and the monitors blinked a final, mournful red. But then, something shifted, a flicker of movement beneath the sterile sheet covering his lifeless form. The room fell into a tense, unnatural silence as the scientists and alien observers stared in disbelief. Bones cracked, muscles twitched, and a faint, tremulous breath escaped Corey's broken lips. The nanites, microscopic machines they'd injected into him, had begun their dark work, weaving cracks in death's fabric with relentless precision. The lead scientist, a tall, gaunt Visraki with elongated features and eyes that shimmered like dark glass, leaned closer, voice clipped and clinical. Subject 17A is showing signs of spontaneous reanimation. This cannot be. Before the words fully left its mouth, Corey's eyes snapped open with a violent, electric shock. His pupils dilated as if awakening from a nightmare that was real. Blood and alien fluids dripped from his torn flesh, yet his body moved with an unnatural, jerky grace. The pain was excruciating, but something darker, something feral, had taken hold. Corey sat bolt upright, his body stiff and trembling, a savage glare burning in his eyes. His voice cracked and raw, cut through the stunned silence. I died, he rasped, voice trembling with fury, and it underscored of hurt. His damaged hand shot up, grabbing a nearby piece of equipment, an alien surgical tool, and with a strength that defied logic, he tore it free. His teeth clenched as pain seared through him, yet he didn't stop. Instead, he snarled at the alien scientists. You carve into her like she was nothing. My wife, my love, she's not some science project to dissect. The alarms blared violently, red lights flashing across the chamber. Morvis Rocky, a grizzled human scientist with a scar running down his cheek, stepped forward, neural disruptors at the ready. Corey, you're not. He started, but Corey was already on the move, blood spraying from his wounds as he tore through the sterile environment like a beast unleashed. His nanites, reprogrammed by the death and resurrection, healed him at an impossible rate, each injury birthing a new, savage strength. He lunged at the Visraki officers, grabbing one by its elongated limb and wrenching it across the room. You think you can play gods with us? Corey hissed, voice dripping with rage. You think you can break us, experiment on us, and I'll just lie down? No way. Not anymore. His eyes darted wildly, flickering with a dark, unrelenting fury. Blood and viscera splattered across the walls as he smashed through lab equipment, tearing into the alien tech with primal abandon. He found a control panel, ripping out a power line with brute force, sparks flying. His bloodied hand gripped a glowing console, smashing it into pieces. The system sparked and sputtered, and sirens wailed louder as he set in motion a chaos that only he could orchestrate. Drones and security bots tried to swarm him, but Corey's nanites adapted instantly, turning pain into power and injury into weapons. He fought through the defenses with reckless abandon, each step a calculated act of destruction. In a sealed room filled with data drives and holographic displays, Corey uncovered the horrifying truth. Thousands of human subjects, discarded like so much trash, their suffering recorded, their pain exploited. His fury ignited anew. "You monsters," he spat, voice trembling with rage, "this ends now." He initiated sabotage, hacking into the system with a feral determination, turning the entire ship into a death trap. Explosions erupted in the corridors behind him, fire and debris tearing through the hull. He moved like a predator, tearing through drones and soldiers alike, leaving a trail of destruction in his wake. His nanites, now fully integrated, responded to his every command, repairing him, fueling his rage, making him stronger with each act of violence. When he finally reached the control room, he saw the high-ranking Visraki officers, their elongated fingers flying over holographic interfaces, desperately trying to contain the chaos. Corey stepped inside, blood dripping down his face, eyes blazing with a savage, unrelenting fury. "Afternoon, gentlemen," he said, voice cold and deadly. "I think your experiment just took a turn you didn't see coming." The psionic attack hit him like icy spikes, a wave of mental intrusion trying to pierce his mind. His knees buckled, tears streaming from his eyes as memories of Sierra's screams, their torture, and the endless pain flooded his consciousness. But his nanites fought back, resistance forming, deflecting the assault. He rose, battered but unbroken, and stared down the alien command with a feral grin. "You'll have to try a lot harder," he growled, voice thick with rage. The chaos had only just begun. Corey's consciousness blurred between chaos and clarity, an unsettling fog that refused to lift even as the flames of destruction flickered behind his eyes. Somewhere in the distant chaos, he could hear Sierra's voice, muffled but persistent, calling him through the haze. "Corey, come back to me. You're not done yet," she whispered, her voice trembling with desperate hope. The pain, the rage, the memories, they all fused into a relentless storm inside his mind, a battle for survival and sanity. His body, battered and scarred, was still alive, thanks to the nanites, the cursed miracle that refused to let him die quietly. The ship's corridors echoed with the cacophony of alarms, the clang of metal, and the distant roar of explosions. Corey staggered forward, blood dripping from his wounds, each step heavy with exhaustion and fury. His vision was blurred, but his mind sharpened with one purpose: to burn everything down, to make the aliens pay for what they had done to Sierra, to him, to every innocent soul they had experimented on. His hands, slick with blood, reached for a nearby console, smashing buttons with primal force. Sparks flew, circuits blew, and the ship's systems groaned under his assault. Suddenly, a holographic interface flickered into life, projecting a menacing image of the Visraki command hierarchy. Corey's eyes narrowed, and he snarled, "You want to fight? You got one." His voice was hoarse but fierce, dripping with defiance. As he pressed a button, the ship shuddered violently, and an emergency lockdown was initiated, sealing the corridors and trapping the aliens inside their chaos. A sick smile curled on his battered face. "That's right. Stay inside and watch your masterpiece burn," he taunted, voice echoing through the metal halls like a curse. From the shadows, the remaining security drones tried to rally, firing their lasers at him. Corey's nanites responded instinctively, transforming pain into power as he dodged and deflected the incoming fire, tearing through the robotic enemies with savage grace. His every movement was fueled by a burning desire for vengeance. Each strike, each smash was an act of rebellion against the monsters that had turned Sierra into a lab rat. His mind flashed to her, fragile and brave, fighting her own silent battle. "Hang on, Sierra," he muttered under his breath, voice thick with emotion. "I'm coming for you." He reached the ship's control room, where the alien officers desperately tried to regain control. The scene was chaos. Hulking Visraki trying to coordinate the evacuation, their elongated fingers flying over holograms in frantic desperation. Corey burst through the door, eyes blazing like a storm. End of the line, he spat, voice filled with rage. You think you can play God with our lives? Not anymore. Without hesitation, he activated a series of manual overrides, flooding the ship's systems with chaos and turning their well-oiled plans into a malfunctioning mess. Alarms blared deafeningly as fire erupted from breached circuits, and the ship shuddered under the weight of his assault. The Visraki officers screamed in alien fury, their elongated limbs flailing as they tried to contain the damage. Corey's nanites surged, healing his wounds instantly as he fought through their defenses with relentless brutality. His eyes darted around, spotting a control panel that held the ship's main power core. With a primal yell, he plunged his hand into the panel, ripping out wires and causing sparks and explosions to ripple through the room. His body moved instinctively, a lethal machine driven by vengeance. As the ship trembled on the brink of destruction, Corey's mind raced, calculating his next move. He knew Sierra was somewhere deep within the bowels of this nightmare, and he wouldn't stop until he found her. The alien scientists were scrambling, desperately trying to shut him down, but his nanites had become a part of him now, an unstoppable force of fury. You thought you could control us, he growled, voice raw and unyielding. But I'm the storm you never saw coming. The chaos grew louder, the ship teetering on the edge of annihilation, and Corey Hayes, damaged, furious, and unbroken, prepared to unleash his final assault. The chaos on the ship reached a fever pitch as Corey surged through the burning corridors, his nanites healing wounds faster than they could be inflicted. Every step was a battle, every breath a victory, but his mind was laser-focused on Sierra. The faint flicker of hope burned brighter within him, even amid the inferno of destruction he'd ignited. Somewhere deep inside the ship, he sensed her presence, faint but real, calling out to him like a fragile whisper in the storm. The ship trembled around him, metal groaning under the strain of explosions, fire licking the walls, and alarms blaring like a death knell. He darted past a collapsed doorway, his bloodied hands gripping a jagged piece of metal as a makeshift weapon. "Come on, Sierra," he muttered, voice thick with desperation. "Hold on, I'm coming." His voice cracked with raw emotion, fear, rage, and hope all tangled into one. His mind replayed her screams, the memories of her suffering, and it fueled his relentless drive to find her. The ship's interior was a labyrinth of twisted metal, flickering lights, and debris, each corner hiding the possibility of salvation or doom. Suddenly, the ship shuddered violently, knocking him off balance. Sparks showered from the ceiling as systems failed and exploded. Corey caught himself just in time, snarling at the chaos. "You think you can break me? You think this is going to stop me?" His voice was a growl, a promise to himself and Sierra. Not a chance. With renewed fury, he pushed forward, tearing through debris, dodging collapsing beams, his nanites repairing his injuries on contact. His eyes darted around, searching, hunting for the faint glimmer of Sierra's mind, her presence growing stronger as he neared her location. In a dim corridor, he finally spotted her. Cuffed to a chair, her face bruised but alive, her eyes wide with fear and defiance. Her voice, weak but resolute, called out as she saw him. "Corey, you made it." He rushed to her side, tearing the restraints with brute force. "Sierra, I'm here. I'm going to get you out of this mess," he promised, voice trembling with emotion. Her lips curled into a faint, grateful smile, but her eyes darted around nervously. "They're coming," she whispered urgently. "More of them. We don't have much time." Suddenly, the door burst open with a deafening crash. Alien soldiers flooded into the room, weapons raised and snarling in their guttural language. Corey stepped protectively in front of Sierra, his body a flickering montage of scars, wounds, and raw fury. "Stay behind me," he growled, voice low and dangerous. "You're not taking her. Not on my watch." His nanites surged, armor plating forming over his skin, and he prepared to fight tooth and claw. The soldiers opened fire, laser beams slicing through the air like deadly ribbons. Corey's nanites responded instantly, forming shields and retaliating with ferocious energy blasts. He moved like a beast, a whirlwind of destruction, smashing through the enemy ranks. Each blow was a statement, a declaration that he would not let them take Sierra, that he would burn this entire nightmare to the ground if he had to. "Is that all you got?" he taunted, voice dripping with disdain. "You're bleeding just like me, and I'm still standing." As the firefight raged, Corey spotted a control panel on the far wall. Without hesitation, he sprinted toward it, tearing at wires and smashing buttons, trying to disable the ship's weapon systems. Sparks flew, and the ship shuddered again, teetering on the brink of total collapse. "This ship's coming down," he shouted, a wild grin spreading across his battered face. "And when it does, so do you." His voice echoed with fierce determination, each word a vow that Sierra's nightmare would end here. Behind him, Sierra scrambled to her feet, clutching his arm. "We have to go," she urged, voice trembling but firm. "Now." Corey nodded, grabbing her hand, and together they dashed toward the exit, the ship trembling around them as explosions erupted behind. The corridors echoed with the sound of destruction, and Corey's heart pounded with a mixture of adrenaline and hope. He knew the fight was far from over, but for now, he had her, and that was enough to keep him fighting until the very end. The hurried footsteps of Corey and Sierra echoed through the battered corridors of the collapsing ship. Each step was hurried but cautious, knowing that every second could be their last. The firestorm outside threatened to consume everything, but inside, they pressed onward, a fragile hope guiding their way. Corey's eyes darted around, scanning for any sign of safe passage, while Sierra clung to his arm, her face pale but determined. "We're almost there," Corey muttered, voice tense but hopeful. "Just a little further, Sierra. I can feel it. We're close to the escape pods." Suddenly, a deafening explosion rocked the ship, sending debris flying and the walls trembling. "Hold on," Corey shouted, grabbing Sierra to steady her. "This thing's coming apart faster than I thought." His voice was edged with urgency, but he refused to let despair seep in. They darted past a section engulfed in flames, the heat licking at their skin, smoke billowing into the narrow corridor. Sierra coughed, but kept moving. "We can't stop now," she gasped. "If we do, we're dead." Ahead, the access hatch loomed, just a few meters away. Corey reached out, fumbling with the control panel, his hands shaking but driven by adrenaline. Come on," he hissed, fingers flying over the buttons. The hatch's locks disengaged with a hiss, swinging open to reveal a sleek, empty escape pod. Sierra's eyes widened with relief. "There it is," she breathed, a flicker of hope igniting in her eyes. "We're going to make it." But just as they moved toward the pod, a shadow lurked behind the door. A hulking Visraki soldier, its elongated limbs and feral eyes fixated on them. "No!" Corey barked, pulling Sierra behind him. "Not today." Without hesitation, he threw himself at the creature, fists clenched, nanites surging to form armor plating on his skin. "You want a piece of me? Come get it," he roared, voice filled with fury. The alien snarled, lunging forward, claws flashing, but Corey met its attack head-on, fighting with primal strength. Sparks flew as they clashed, metal on flesh, fury on fury. Sierra watched in horror, but knew she had to stay strong. "Corey, be careful," she shouted, her voice trembling. "You're not invincible." Her words seemed to fuel his rage even more. "I'm not invincible," Corey grunted, shoving the alien back with a burst of energy, but I'm damn sure not going down without a fight. His nanites responded instinctively, healing wounds as they appeared, making him stronger and austere. With a final, brutal blow, he knocked the creature back, giving Sierra the chance to dash into the escape pod. "Get in," Corey commanded, voice gruff but compassionate. Sierra hesitated only a moment before obeying, scrambling into the seat as he entered behind her. The hatch was sealed shut just as the alien roared in frustration outside. Corey slammed a button, initiating the pod's launch sequence. "Hold on tight," he said, gripping the controls. The ship shuddered violently as the escape pod rocketed away from the chaos, the collapsing ship growing smaller in the viewport. As they sped through space, Sierra leaned back, exhaustion finally catching up with her. "We did it," she whispered, her voice thick with relief. "We're free." Corey looked at her, his face a mask of relief mixed with lingering tension. "Yeah," he said softly. "But this is just the beginning. We've got a long road ahead, Sierra. We're not safe yet. Not until we expose what they did and put an end to it." His eyes flickered with determination. "I promise you, I won't stop until justice is done. We're in this together, and I won't let them hurt you again." Sierra nodded, clutching his hand. Despite the scars, the pain, and the chaos, she knew they had a fighting chance now. If only they could stay one step ahead of the nightmare waiting for them in the darkness of space. The quiet of space felt almost deafening after the chaos of the ship's destruction. Inside the cramped confines of their escape pod, Corey stared intently at the flickering monitor, trying to piece together their next move. Sierra sat beside him, her head leaning against his shoulder, exhausted but alert, her eyes fixed on the distant starfield rushing past. The silence between them was thick with unspoken fears and tentative hope. Corey finally broke it, voice low and steady. "We made it out, Sierra. That's the first victory, but it's only the beginning. We're still in their crosshairs." She looked up at him, her eyes shadowed with worry. "I know, but for now, at least we're alive. That's what matters." Her voice was fragile but determined. "We can't let what they did just disappear into the void. We have to expose them. Tell everyone what happened on that ship." Corey nodded, his jaw clenched tightly. "Yeah, but we need to be smart about it. We're not exactly in the safest spot right now. Those aliens won't give up just because we escaped. They're relentless." Suddenly, the ship's comm crackled to life, a garbled voice coming through. Corey fished out the transmitter, his brow furrowing as he listened. "This is Commander Rylan. Do you copy? You're clear to establish a rescue mission. We got a team on standby, but you need to move fast. The system's collapsing and the enemy's closing in." Corey's eyes widened. "Rylan, thank God. We're alive, but we're not out of the woods yet. We need backup immediately." Sierra looked at him sharply. "What do we do? We can't stay here forever." Corey took a deep breath, forcing himself to stay calm. "We'll head toward the rendezvous point. It's a neutral zone where we can regroup and plan our next move. But we have to move fast. Every second counts." His voice was tinged with urgency, but beneath it was a flicker of hope. "We're not just fighting for our lives anymore. We're fighting to reveal the truth, to make sure what happened on that ship doesn't stay hidden." They prepared to launch the escape pod again, the ship's systems flickering ominously around them. As the pod hummed to life, Sierra looked at Corey. "You really think we can pull this off? That we can stop them?" He looked back at her, a mixture of fierce resolve and vulnerability in his eyes. "I don't know, but I do know I won't stop trying. They think they can silence us, but I swear, Sierra, as long as I'm breathing, I'll fight to the last breath to expose their lies." His voice was thick with conviction, a promise made in the chaos of their escape. "We've got allies out there, Rylan and his team. We just have to hold on until they arrive." The pod's engines roared as they sped toward the rendezvous point, the stars streaking past in a blur. Inside, Sierra clutched her knees, her mind racing. "We're so close now," she whispered, more to herself than anyone else. and I won't let them take us again. Not without a fight. Corey reached out, squeezing her hand gently. Neither will I. We're in this together, Sierra, and we're going to make sure everyone knows what they try to hide, no matter what it costs us. As they hurtled through space, the weight of their mission pressed down on them, but so did a flicker of hope. They had survived the nightmare, but the real battle was only just beginning. The darkness outside was vast and unforgiving, but within the confines of that tiny pod, a spark of rebellion and truth burned brighter than ever. They knew the road ahead would be perilous, but with determination burning in their hearts, they were ready to face whatever came next. The fight for justice for their lives was far from over. The cold, unyielding silence of space pressed against the small escape pod as Corey and Sierra hurtled toward the rendezvous point. Inside, tension was thick enough to cut with a knife, though neither dared to break it. Corey kept his eyes fixed on the flickering monitor, every second feeling like an eternity. His jaw tightened as he stared at the readings, trying to gauge how much longer before they'd reach safety. Sierra sat beside him, her hands trembling but her gaze sharp and alert, as if her mind was racing through plans, fears, and hopes all at once. Suddenly, the comm crackled to life with a burst of static, then a familiar voice. "This is Commander Rylan. Do you copy?" His voice was rough but steady, cutting through the silence like a blade. Corey's heart leapt. "Rylan, this is Corey and Sierra. We're here. We're alive, but we're not out of danger yet." "Good to hear your voices," Rylan responded, relief evident in his tone. "We're en route to your coordinates. The system's collapsing fast, and the enemy's closing in. You need to hold tight. We got a team ready to extract you. Just hang in there." Corey let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. "Roger that. We're holding," he replied, trying to sound confident even though his mind was racing. "But listen, Rylan, you need to know they're not just after us. They've been manipulating everything. The ship, the experiments, they're hiding something big, and I swear we're going to expose it." There was a pause on the line, and then Rylan's voice turned serious. "I've suspected as much. That's why I've been pushing for a full investigation. We'll get you out, and then we'll get to the bottom of this, together. Just keep your heads down and stay sharp. We're almost there." As the pod's engines hummed, Sierra finally broke the silence, voice trembling but fierce. "Corey, do you think they knew we'd survive? That they wanted us to get away, so that they could cover their tracks?" He looked at her, a grim smile tugging at his lips. "Honestly, I don't know, but I do know this. Nothing's going to stop us now. We're going to tell everyone what they try to hide. Every lie, every cover-up, every dirty secret. They can't silence us forever." The stars streaked past like a cosmic storm, a blur of distant lights and darkness. Inside the tiny vessel, Corey's hand reached for Sierra's, squeezing it tightly. "We're almost there. Just a little longer. We have to stay strong. You and me, Sierra, we're the only hope this world's got right now." Her eyes shimmered with unshed tears, but she nodded fiercely. "I'm with you. Always." Her voice cracked with emotion, but her resolve was firm. "We're going to make sure they pay for what they've done, no matter what it takes." The countdown to their rescue was racing against time, and every second felt like a battle. Corey looked at her, a mixture of admiration and fierce protectiveness in his eyes. "We're not just fighting for ourselves anymore," he said softly. "We're fighting for everyone who's been silenced, for the truth that's been buried. We're going to make sure they can't hide anymore." As the rescue team's ship finally emerged from the darkness to dock with their pod, relief flooded through them. Cheers and shouts crackled over the comms, but Corey and Sierra remained silent, knowing that this was only the beginning. The fight had just begun, and the real battle for justice was still ahead. They stepped into the larger ship, their hearts pounding, but their spirits unbreakable. With the truth on their side, they were ready to face whatever came next, because they knew, deep down, that their courage and determination would light the way through the darkness. And that was the end of the story. Comment below if you want the next chapter, and hit that like button. Please subscribe, turn on the bell, and as always, keep the last light burning.